But yeah, it's basically an outpouring of emotion, that second one. That is very interesting. He's just naturally born good at imitating. You gotta sing from your diaphragm. That's what makes them so good. Of course, it doesn't sound like Freddie then. Hey everyone, my name's Mishan. I'm a singer-songwriter and vocal coach, and today I'm gonna be reacting to Marc Martel teaching us how to sing like Freddie Mercury. So this is actually my first time watching this video, and I'm excited to share my reactions with you guys. Click the join button down below to become a member of this channel and get access to exclusive monthly live streams.
I thought I'd do a little tutorial on how to sound like Freddie Mercury. I'm not a vocal coach and I've never taken voice lessons, so I don't really speak the language of the technical stuff behind how to sing.
All right, so that confirms it. A lot of people have been asking, has he ever taken lessons before? Is he a trained singer or is he a naturally born singer? He's never taken voice lessons before, so I guess he's a naturally born singer.
I just kind of learned from imitating other singers. I'm going to do my best here to maybe, if I can't communicate to you how to sound like Freddie, because it has a lot to do with genetics, thank you Mom and Dad, I can at least communicate to you how to have a starting point to sing Queen's music. I was speaking with an actor a couple years ago who wanted to know how to sound like Freddie Mercury because he was a bit of an imitator himself. And so he was like, dude, how do you do it? How do you sound like Freddie Mercury? And I know that he was a little bit disappointed, probably. I could see on his face when I said, I don't know, man, I just do it. I don't force it. I just naturally sound like Freddie, and no matter what I'm singing, especially when I'm singing rock, you know, people will always, without fail, tell me, hey, you know who you sound like? And by now I do, and it's always a compliment, even to the point where now I sing with Queen's official tribute band, the Queen Extravaganza. I didn't have any magical explanation for him on how I do it. When I told him that, he started looking at me scrutinizingly, like he was examining a crime scene or something. Or then he said, yeah, I can tell in your jaw structure it's kind of the same as Freddie's, and your nose is shaped very similarly. You probably have the same sinus cavities and all those same resonances in your head. And I'm like, yeah, man, that's basically it. A lot of it has to do with genetics, but I can try to communicate to you sort of the spirit of how to sing like Freddie. So the way I want to do that is...
So it's a little frustrating that he wasn't able to explain to the guy how to sing like Freddie, but he's going to explain to us how to sing like Freddie. I get what he's saying here, though. That's a joke. Joking aside, though, I get what he's saying. He's kind of got something that he's able to imitate. And this is something that a lot of just people really don't understand about naturally born singers. Is naturally born singers are just really, really good at imitating. Singers like me, and probably like some of you, that if you're watching these videos, generally you're probably trying to figure out how to sing better. That means you're probably not a naturally born singer. Somebody who's not a naturally born singer, they don't have an amazing ability to imitate. Whereas somebody who is a naturally born singer, they have the ability to just hear something. They know exactly what's going on when that singer is singing that, and they're able to replicate that with their voices. That's what makes them so good with singing so quickly. They pick it up at a very young age, just like, you know, speech we acquire through imitating. The same thing, they acquire it very quickly. Whereas people who are not naturally born singers, they have to sit there and go, no, that's not the sound. And then say, no, that's not the sound. No, that's not the sound, and go back and forth and back and forth, and you like play around with the sounds and experiment, trying to figure out what is the sound that I'm supposed to be singing. That is part of what takes so long for a non-born with it singer. And so that's just kind of why he just sounds like Freddie, because it's just been something that he hasn't been trained to do. He's just naturally born good at imitating.
Is take one song, Bohemian Rhapsody, in which Freddie explores a vast range of his vocal stylings. But before you sing Queen, you gotta be in touch with the lyrics, you gotta be in touch with your emotions. Freddie was always emotionally interacting with the music, whether it be live, whether it be in the studio. You know, live he would lose his voice a lot because he had so much passion to give to these songs that after a couple of nights in a row, you know, he would start to sound hoarse. That has a lot to do with singing Queen. Now, a good vocal coach will tell you not to do that, but you've got to really give everything you got to be convincing at it. So be in touch with the lyrics, understand what you're singing. You know, you got to get emotionally involved with that. Now,
So I think that that is just really good overall advice no matter what you're singing. You really want to get in touch with what exactly you are saying, what your message is, and it may not even have to do with the lyrics, but the emotion you want to convey in the song, you want to definitely be aware of what your intent is when you're singing.
We've laid that foundation. Let's get into the actual tones of Freddie Mercury's voice. Now, the first one is the intro after the piano starts in Bohemian Rhapsody, the very first verse. Let's hear that. Mama just killed a man, put a gun against his head, pulled my trigger, now he's dead. So that's what I call his soft, vulnerable, whispery tone. It actually reminds me a lot of George Michael, honestly. If you go, Mama just killed a man, there's almost like that throaty George Michael thing in there. I'm a big fan of George Michael, so it's kind of, I liken that to him. Put a gun against his head, I will be your father figure, I have had enough of... It's Freddie's George.
Yeah, they do have actually some similar qualities to their voice and the way that they sing. It's very cool how when Marc Martel does George Michael, he sounds like a mixture of the two of them, which is very cool.
Freddie came before George, so let's do It's George's Freddie, if that helps at all. The second tone is Freddie's kind of go-to rock voice. Now, his rock voice changed. Earlier, it was very pointed and thin and yet powerful, kind of like an...
Okay, so anybody who says that he just sounds like Freddie with any studying of Freddie's sound is very clearly proven wrong, because right here you could see how much he's actually learned about Freddie's style, how it's changed over time, how he was during live shows. He's definitely studied Freddie's music, Freddie's performances, and he is very much in touch with the way Freddie Mercury sings. So it's not just like he woke up one day and he was like, oh, okay, I just sound like Freddie. I never heard of that guy before. It's something that was intentional.
Angry violin, very gritty, and let's hear that. So you think you can love me and leave me to die? Oh, baby, can't do this to me. He's giving so much passion that the pitch of the note sort of becomes secondary, especially in his vibrato. He's sort of all over the place. I think that's what gives it the mojo. So you think you can love me and leave me to die? Oh, you're more
especially on that.
Oh,
I see exactly what he's talking about. He just lets it kind of be free and wild in the rock sound, and obviously throwing rasp on it helps to give it that rock vibe.
Of the line, then really hitting that note, it just kind of puts you in mind of someone who's unleashed and giving himself into the moment. So that's the tone where you've really got to be careful when you're singing Queen, because if you do that too much, if you don't listen to your throat, if your throat starts to hurt, you got to stop that, change your voice, because you could do some real damage to your voice. But when singing rock is a big part of what you do, that's sort of the name of the game. It cuts through the mix in a rock song, especially when you're competing with Brian May's guitars cranked up to 10 and Roger Taylor's drums blasting. Back in the days where they didn't have...
That's the reason why you have microphones. Amplification really helps, so you don't have to blast your voice over the top. So I get what he's saying from the aspect of emotion, but you don't want to take that over the top where you're going to blow out your voice night after night singing these songs. You need to be able to find that happy medium where you kind of push the emotion, but not too much.
Have in-ear monitors, Freddie had to really, not necessarily sing loud, but point his tone in a way that it would poke through the mix. I think that's a big reason why those singers back then had very sharp sounding vocals, and I think of Robert Plant and lots of other singers from the 70s. They had that because that sharp tone just blasts through even guitars and loud bass and drums. But always support with the diaphragm, people. Don't sing from your neck and your throat. You got to push the air out to get enough support. I do not want you to hurt your voice. That's the number one thing. I'm just trying to communicate to you what I do by feel. Now
Okay, so it's very clearly somebody who's not trained in singing giving advice. He's probably heard that term, breathe from your diaphragm, you gotta sing from your diaphragm. What does that mean? Like, I feel like giving you guys, people who are not trained singers or not naturally born singers, that type of advice can be damaging because they hear that term and they're like, okay, well, what does diaphragmatic support mean? It means that you're using the lower abdominal muscles, the pelvic floor muscles, and the lower back muscles all to engage the sound so that you're holding back the ascent of the diaphragm so that the diaphragm doesn't jump up too quickly. And we want to engage those very strongly so we can feel that kind of push from those when you think of kind of giving like a loud shh sound. So that really engages your diaphragmatic support. So do that, get a feel for what those muscles kicking in, like put a hand abdominals in your lower back and really get a feel for what those muscles kicking in feels like. That's the type of engagement you want to get when you're singing. And that's what he's referring to, even though he didn't quite describe it in completeness because I'm not sure how much he actually understands of the background. He just kind of gets it on an intuitive level.
We're going to skip the choir section in the middle because that is just mock opera, and I think anyone who can sing can pull off something fairly convincing. My favorite moment in Bohemian Rhapsody is the very last time Freddie sings Mama in the second verse. Let's hear that. When you're talking to your mom and you know that you're breaking her heart over what you've done, you can't help but get emotional about that. It sounds like he's crying, Mama! Ooh! It's like he can barely hold on to the note because his emotion.
That seemed like that one was a little bit strained. I could see the neck muscles kicking in and he came out a little bit flat. But I hear exactly what he's saying. Like that is an amazing moment. And actually, if you listen to Freddie's original take, he almost gets vibrato in there, but he doesn't quite, it ends up being a lot more straight tone than having a full spinning vibrato there. But yeah, it's basically an outpouring of emotion, that second one.
His sadness is getting the best of him. And Freddie was a great communicator of emotion. You know that the guy's going through probably the hardest time of their lives and they can barely stand it just from that one way that he sings the word mama. Now, like I said, Freddie had a lot more tones than that. The way his rock voice changed in the 80s, the older he got, the more macho and deep his rock tone became. I think of songs like The Show Must Go On. He's kind of gotten rid of all the uncertainty in his voice and all the frailty. It's a very powerful, strong, this is who I am, show must go on, instead of show must go on. It's fuller, there's more chest involved. Even the way he sang Bohemian Rhapsody at Wembley was much different than the way he used to in the 70s. Mama, just keep.
And so there's definitely a lot more rasp going on in the first one than he did in the second one that actually creates that appearance like there's more chest involved in the tone. It's really interesting what he's saying about how even in the songwriting process, how they've changed or they changed in the 80s how he sang the songs.
Killed a man, put a gun against his head instead of put a gun against his head. One way to sort of sound like Freddie is to imagine that you're a little bit congested, like Mama, ooh, didn't mean to make you cry. If I'm not back again this time tomorrow, carry on, carry on. It's almost like he didn't really.
All right, so let's try that.
Mama just killed a man, put a gun against his head instead of put a gun against his head. One way to sort of sound like Freddie is to imagine that you're a little bit congested, like Mama, ooh.
All right, so let's try that. Mama, ooh.
Didn't mean to make you cry.
Didn't mean to make you cry.
if I'm not back again this time tomorrow.
If I'm not back again this time tomorrow.
Carry on, carry on. It's almost like he...
Carry on, carry on. How did I do? Of course it doesn't sound like Freddie then. Interesting take. I wonder why he thinks that Freddie sounds like he's congested. Basically, when he's doing that, it sounds like he's just singing like Freddie, but while plugging his nose. I mean, I don't see how much that will change somebody who doesn't sound like Freddie to make them sound like Freddie.
He didn't really breathe through his nose. And if you watch stuff like the Live Aid performance, when I think Freddie was suffering from a really bad cold that day while he was giving one of the performances of his life, instead of doing, "Life had just begun," you know, when you're tired, when you're sick, you kind of lose that top end of your voice. And so he went, "Life had just begun, but now I've got to throw it all away." A lot more macho and less of that effeminate thing he did in the early 70s, which was cool. And then I guess he decided that wasn't cool anymore in the 80s.
Wow, okay, that is very interesting. I didn't know he knew so much. Like, that's a lot of research to know what was going on in the back when Freddie was doing the Live Aid performance. But yeah, definitely that difference is very apparent from the live recordings to the original.
80s and sort of became this different persona. There's really a journey in Freddie's voice across his career. He started sort of as this ballerina, feminine thing going on, and then it sort of morphed into a more macho, manly, deep in the chest, "It's a kind of magic." Now, you wouldn't hear that tone early in the 70s. You would hear, "It's a kind of magic." Yeah, the multifaceted vocal colors of Freddie Mercury. There you have it. I try to cover it as much as I can. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you soon.
So I hope you guys liked that video. If you did, please hit the thumbs up. If you want to see more of these videos, hit the subscribe button. Next to it, hit the bell so you get notifications when new videos come out. With all that said, I'll see you guys in the next video. Be sure to check out my new singing program called Transform Your Voice, where I teach you how to go from this "When a man loves a woman" to this.